Hey friends, welcome to the Rhythm Dialogue video. My name is Matt and we're hanging out chatting today with Lauren and with our good friend Tommy Santiago. And we try to create these like little midweek dialogue videos to continue conversations that are already happening within Rhythm, within our larger community. So it could be a question that someone has kind of posed recently that we want to just explore a little bit more, or continuing conversations that are already happening on Sunday morning in the teaching time, or some other aspect of life and faith and following Jesus that we want to kind of play with and discuss a little bit more. So hope you enjoyed the video. We got a couple of them cooking. I think this is our third one, talking about justice. That's in biblical justice, kingdom justice. And so that's what Rhythm has been kind of exploring and learning about and discussing and wrestling with over the past 5 or 6 weeks. And so we wanted to create a little bit of space with the three of us to keep that conversation going and kind of share maybe one idea or one question that's come up for us that we're continuing to process through and have a little bit of conversation about it. So Tommy, why don't we start with you? What's been kind of popping up for you over the last few weeks, a question, an idea, something that's kind of continued to resonate with you when it comes to biblical justice?
I think for me, and you saw this from me on Sunday when I gingerly raised my hand to ask questions. Was this idea of charity versus justice, and where is the distinction between the two, and where is the overlap between the two? Because I come from a church background where charity was a big thing. Giving, doing outreaches on an annual basis to poor families, providing them with Thanksgiving meals and things like that in the community. Obviously, short-term missions was really big, and going to other countries and providing different things that they might have needed. I myself was part of a mission trip many years ago to Peru, where we actually helped to renovate a church in a small town. So I'm familiar with this aspect of charity in the church, but over the past few years, my ideas about what the church's role is when it comes to justice have really changed a lot. And part of that is just the experiences that I've had over the past 5 years with people who have been marginalized by the church. And so now I kind of have this tension in me that's like, okay, how do I make sure that me as a person, I am doing justice wherever I go? Micah 6:8, where how do I make sure I'm acting justly wherever I go? But at the same time, how do I be a person that is not opposed to charity? How do I be somebody who incorporates charity into justice work? So that's just something that's really been on my mind the past few weeks. The distinctions between the two, and also how to incorporate the two.
Yeah, that's good. How would you interact with that, Lauren?
Yeah. I think that's something that I've wrestled with for a long time as well. And I think I also want to say that tension is not bad. I feel like being a believer, I feel like you're constantly living in tension about so many different things. And I would say, like, I've always leaned towards that wrestling with that tension too, like actually seeing justice happen in a lot of secular spaces, or like seeing a lot of secular organizations working for justice and the church responding in more charitable ways. I don't think that that's true of all churches. I think there are churches that work towards changing systems that oppress marginalized people, and that we can see a lot of believers doing that in their everyday work, and there's a lot of ministries, parachurch ministries, that are responding to systemic oppression as well. So I think sometimes what I think is that I think we're called to both, because sometimes charity is what you can do in the moment. I think about how many times have I been driving and I see someone come up to my car window, and especially as a woman, like my first thing is always like, can I feel safe enough to roll down the window and like address a gentleman I don't know who's living on the streets asking me for money or for food. And in that moment, sometimes the Lord he invites us to respond and say, yeah, give what you have. Maybe you have some extra food on you. But I think that if that's where we stop, then I think we are missing so much of the heart of Jesus, and we are missing so much of the example that Jesus left for us. And I actually it's interesting you brought that up, Tommy, that's saying that you were reflecting on that. I've been like dwelling on this quote from Oscar Romero, who was a bishop in El Salvador, was very big into speaking out against oppression during the Salvadoran Civil War. And he says, when the church hears the cries of the oppressed, it cannot but denounce the social structures that give rise to and perpetuate the misery from which the cry arises. And I just think about that, as believers, as we understand more of who Jesus is, we encounter him in our own personal lives and corporately as the church, that it's like you can't help but like cry out against injustice that you see in the world. And it's like you're going to be I think Jesus will compel us, and he should compel us to want to do more than charity, and to be like, to ask deeper questions like, why is this gentleman on the street? Why does he have no place to go tonight? And to think about systems that probably have failed him or worked against him, to not have a family, to not have a support system to lean on, to not have people who have cared for him if he's living with mental illness or different things like that.
Yeah. If I could just add on to that, I think, when I think about it more, it's almost like charity is kind of a short term or a kind of an initial meeting of needs, and it's more of a short term type of thing. Whereas justice is more of a long-term thing, where it involves getting deeper into, like you said, the whys behind the what, right? The reasons behind whatever's happening, and working to address what those reasons are for whatever might be happening, whether it's poverty, whether it's refugees that are coming in, and or whatever the issue is, kind of getting kind of to the root of it and the core of it is where justice kind of comes in, and bringing our efforts to correct that, so
yeah, that's good. That's really good. Yeah, I think it's maybe like a simple way to kind of think about it is like charity tends to deal with kind of like an immediate need, or like a very on the surface kind of need, and we're thinking, whether it's a church or an individual or whatever, we're thinking about how do I kind of address this immediate need. Justice thinks about the immediate need, but also the circumstances that cause that need to be there to begin with, whether it's a person's personal journey in some ways affecting that, bringing that to bear to some, whether it has to do with their family, whether it has to do with larger kind of societal kind of issues or structures or systems, that Jesus wants to restore and redeem all things and renew all things.
Yes.
And
amen.
Not just the immediate need, but he wants to bring power and healing into our lives that give us a new future, and wants to create, make all things new, restore things that are broken. So yeah, that's
Amen.
a great thing to continue to wrestle with. And I think, maybe the larger picture is like, we probably need elements of both, to actually kind of build relationships with people and build some trust with people. We probably need to have some charitable elements to what we do that are kind of like more mercy ministries in a way. But there needs to be like a thrust of like ongoing addressing of the stuff that's beneath the need, you know? So.
Yeah, what I would add to that too is that, for me, one of the most amazing things is seeing the folks who are being crushed by oppressive systems being the ones to be like, we know our community the best. Like we're, the folks who are indigenous to a community being affected, like being the ones to say like, this is how we're going to respond, to oppression. And, just even thinking about, Dr. King and the civil rights movement and how the Black church, like, I remember visiting all of that in Atlanta, like going to Ebenezer Baptist Church and just saying like, wow, like the church responded to this because this affected them and this affected their community. So it's like they knew how to best respond to what was happening, and then having like, other white Christian brothers and sisters and coming alongside them and saying like, we're going to stand with you in this, I think is really amazing too. And I think that that's something that I always keep in mind too, because as an Enneagram type 2, like a lot of my instinct is to want to rush in and say like, hey, I want to help. Like I can help. I have time and I have availability. And I've learned in a lot of different situations, like the best thing is honestly to pull back and to like learn and to be led by people indigenous to their own communities and to see like, how do they want to solve their problems, and as like an ally, how do I step into that and like learn and be led by them and see their gifts and talents in that.
Yeah, that's really good. Yeah, it's like a coming alongside, not trying to be the hero, not trying to be the answer person, or Americans tend to have a bit of a Messiah complex to like, we want to fix things. And
you about to preach now, man. You about to preach now.
So we have to be wary of that, right? That we have to be, that's not our role, and that's actually like not empowered. That disempowers people when we try to kind of like power over them or take over or fix, right? It's more of like a coming alongside and supporting. So yeah, Lauren, what's been something you've been processing through maybe the last couple of weeks, and we'll have a little bit of conversation on that, and then we can wrap it up.
Yeah. So some of you guys may know, we were all there at this workshop, this amazing workshop we got to all be part of a couple weeks ago. It was led by our sister, Keisha Polonio, who was on our last video. And she's done a lot of really good justice work for the kingdom, particularly serving women who were caught in sex trafficking. And so I remember just sitting there, just feeling very renewed and inspired by a lot of the words she brought. And I think, the workshop focused on starting and sustaining justice initiatives for the kingdom. This was a workshop for believers who have an interest in wanting to intersect their faith with justice and being inspired out of that, out of the relationship with Jesus, to have some sort of justice initiative. And I think I just thought like, how can the church better support that? How can we support as we like, I think like when we dream of the church, I think it's like this ongoing thing. It's like, we always want to dream, like, what more could we be? Like, what more could we do and be who Jesus has called us to be? So I would think like, yeah, if there's someone like Tommy who is like, I want to start something, like how could I, as like one of the pastors of a church, of Rhythm Church specifically, how could I support him in doing that?
Yeah. Don't put me out there like that, though.
I'm just saying, because you're on the video. It could be anybody.
No, that's one thing one thing that has really, I want to say, impacted me the last few years is this idea about going back to charity, the idea of American churches, kind of going into these countries that already have churches to start like new churches instead of coming alongside churches that are already there. That kind of is something that has kind of rubbed me a little the wrong way. And so I kind of have take that same mindset with nonprofits and also ministries out there that are doing work. Instead of me starting something that's already being done, what can I join or be a part of? So, the last few years, I've done my research on different nonprofits, different ministries that are doing great work. And I've just been like, hey, who can I come alongside of, and who can I just try to do some work for? Who can I just get out there and protest with, serve with, or whatnot? My ideas haven't been so much along the lines of starting something, but something something Keisha said at the workshop was, you don't have to you don't have to worry about whether you're doing the same thing as somebody else, because we need all of it, right?
Yeah.
So that kind of had me thinking, well, dang, maybe there is something that God is leading me to start. I don't know what that is at that point, but it's something that I'm really thinking and praying about, because there's so many things where I have a passion for, and just, wherever I see something that's wrong systemically or whatnot, I kind of want to be a part of it. There's so many things like that. It's kind of hard for me to kind of zero in on one thing. But Keisha was like, hey, just think about it, pray about it, and see where God is see where God is leading you the most.
Yeah, that's really good, all of that. What did you say? Yeah, I heard you say something. I'm here for the Bible study or I'm here for the sermon and the 6-week follow-up Bible study.
What was that? Like a comment? Was that a Facebook comment?
Yes, it was. It was a post I wrote about. It was
yes,
a post
I'm here for the follow-up.
Yes.
I'm here for the follow-up. Yes.
Yeah.
You could hear me snapping my fingers through the Facebook post.
Yeah. Yeah. So really good points, Tommy.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think, and I'll kind of wrap up maybe our time with this, just a little reflection off what you guys are processing through, is like, there are all sorts of really good things already cooking in our city and around the world. Yeah. Great initiatives, amazing people doing fantastic work. And I think we do want to find ways to learn alongside them, from them, partner with them. But there will also be many of us, I think, that are called to experiment with something new that addresses a different kind of niche or a pocket of a community or a city that is unreached or underserved in some way, is kind of forgotten by the church, and for us to be present with them, bearing witness to Christ and his love through word and deed, and friendship. And so Miami is one of the Miami as a city you guys may know this, has gone to great lengths to encourage entrepreneurial work. There are tons of startups happening in our city right now. And one of the things that the entrepreneurial community is learning is that the more that entrepreneurs and people who are doing these startups can hang out and spend time with other people who are doing startups, who are doing entrepreneurial work, the better they are together, the more they learn from one another. Even if they're doing different types of things, they just stay encouraged, they stay motivated, they don't give up, because starting something new is hard, whether it's a business or a ministry or whatever. And I would love to see Rhythm and the church as a whole be encouraging pioneering types of work like that, and find ways where we can support people and have like a community of entrepreneurs for the kingdom who are starting and experimenting and failing and learning and innovating and trying things over and over again, to reach people who are not currently being reached, and to serve people who aren't currently being served, and to extend the kingdom in the city and in the region. So anyway, all that is to say, like, we need a mix of both, and we need continual kind of imagination for what it means to be the church together. But thanks for dialoguing and continuing the conversation. And we talk every week in our public. If you're watching this online and getting a little bit of a feel for who Rhythm is, we love to chat about Jesus and life and faith. And every week at our public worship gathering, we have a space for dialogue, communal dialogue about the scripture that we're studying that week and how it intersects with our lives. And we'd love for you to come and participate and hang out with us. You can also find out more, learn more about who we are as a community, and check out some other like resources on our website, which is rhythmmiami.com. Have a great day. Bye-bye.
Bye.